Welcome to the Week in Politics with Michelle Grattan. I'm Nick Klomp, the Deputy Vice-Chancellor here at the University of Canberra. Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Nick.
With less than 2 weeks until the budget, Scott Morrison made waves with his announcement that the government is scrapping the proposed Medicare levy increase. This was supposed to help fund the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Why is the government doing this?
Firstly, because it can. It's got more revenue than it seemed likely to have a year ago, so it's using that money. But secondly, while the government was proposing to increase the Medicare levy, and that was due to start mid-next year, it really was undermining its whole argument that it will be cutting tax, because it's proposing to run quite strongly on a program of income tax cuts. And so it would have been saying, on the one hand, we're cutting tax, but by the way, on the other hand, we're increasing your tax. So that's dealt with that argument and helped it in its attempt to make tax a big issue of difference with Labor. Of course, on the specific question of the Medicare levy, Labor had a compromise proposal. It wasn't willing to support the increase in the levy for people on lower and middle incomes, but it's abandoned that proposal too.
Yes, as you say, the government wants to make the coming election all about tax, saying that Labor is the high taxing party. How will this go down, do you think?
Labor's policy includes, of course, measures like cracking down on negative gearing, taking a tougher attitude on trusts, and now not giving cash rebates for franked dividends, except there's an exemption for pensioners. So much of the government's argument about Labor's higher taxes go to those things rather than income tax. What Labor will do is it will also bring in a regime of income tax cuts as part of its election policy. One question is whether it persists with its proposal to bring back the levy for deficit repair, which it has been arguing it will do, but it's left itself, I think, in the last day or so, a bit of wriggle room on that. But if it sticks with that policy, of course, that means a different position for higher income earners between Labor and the government, and we still have to see the detail of the government's tax cut regime, and then subsequently, not necessarily immediately, but sometime between now and the election, the detail of Labor's counter-proposal.
At the start of this week, Financial Services Minister Kelly O'Dwyer, in an agonising interview, refused to admit the government had been too slow in setting up the Royal Commission into banking. Should the government have been conceded up front perhaps more quickly that it had made a mistake?
Absolutely. I think that was a complete train wreck of an interview for Kelly O'Dwyer. It was embarrassing for her. It didn't achieve the government's objective of holding the line on its arguments about the timing of its actions. Malcolm Turnbull tried then to say, oh, well, politically we would have been better off if we'd have done this earlier, but we had very good reasons not to. I think it would have been just better, cleaner to say, look, in retrospect, with the knowledge we now have, yes, we should have set it up earlier. And then you've got more ability to move on.
A big argument has broken out about the incoming Chief of the Australian Defence Force, Lieutenant General Angus Campbell, who in his current role of Chief of Army has banned death symbols. I think these are skull and crossbones and phantoms and that sort of stuff. Is this political correctness, or do you think this is the correct decision?
He's been attacked by some past diggers and some Conservative commentators for being caught up by political correctness. I think it's not about that at all. I think he has a concern that you have to lay down a very clear ethical base for soldiering, and I think this is part of his effort to strengthen that base. It's been defended, for example, by the Australia Defence Association, and that's not a politically correct organisation. So I think that the attacks on Campbell are misguided, and trying to draw this into the culture wars is simply going in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Michelle Grattan, thank you again.
Thanks a lot.